Yo, how are we doing? And today in this video I'm going to be talking about the power training block that I have been doing the past little while. There hasn't been huge amounts of updates in my training because, as you're about to see, I injured my lower back, which, yeah, it sucked. In a word, it sucked. I haven't had an injury in a long time, a few years. Nothing that's been a setback for over sort of a week. And here, really pissed off my lower back. Basically, it's been a mix of doing the power training, so high impact, Olympic lifting, and just my hips. I've always had a little bit of a problem with the SI joint when doing certain lifts, and I've just figured that one of the other things that can flare it up is doing lots of running, power training, and Olympic lifting at the same time. So it knocked me out for. It took me about 4 weeks to get back to lifting things that I'm used to lifting. The first week I was crippled. In fact, the first few days, I was hobbling about like an old man. It was pretty nasty, and I was really concerned that I might have slipped a disc. But it isn't a slipped disc. I just really aggravated my SI joint. So here, sorry, in the background, I'm doing some curls. This is actually like a personal best that I did sort of in that in-between period. So after the injury, I just had to do some rehab stuff. Probably should have done a video on that, but I think when you get injured, maybe it's just me, but I just really don't enjoy training as much, and I don't really want to showcase it because it's really boring. Like lots of stretching, lots of foam rolling work, lots of lifting light weights, and just building back up. As part of training, you are going to get injured, but it's just figuring out how to minimise injuries, number one, how to train around them, and get productive training on other areas while the injury heals, and also how to promote healing as well and actually fix the issue, and then make sure that you don't re-injure it later on, because that's where you hear people fucking shit up, right? Is that they have a knee injury and then they continue to injure that knee and then their knee crumbles to dust. So I don't want that to happen for my lower back. So this is actually the first time going back to doing some Olympic lifting after the injury. I think that there was 60 kilos on the snatch, which I managed reasonably well. Then I went up to 70. And I think, about to figure out that just not ready for doing 70 again. I think my personal best 75 on the sort of muscle snatch. And here I just bailed. I'm just like, nah, it's not happening. So I think I just finish off by doing a set of high pulls. And you can notice, like, I think this is probably 2 weeks post back injury. So I don't wait around long. It might be 3 weeks. Just wanted to get back on the horse and go back to the exercise that I'd felt injured on. Now, it was a sort of one of those pains that I had when I went to train, and I was like, oh, my back feels a bit tricky, and then I done the snatch and it went, oh, it's no longer tricky, it's fucked. So I wanted to get back doing the Olympic lifting, even though I should have been going to a mobility block. I kept some Olympic lifting in, just so that I could get back on the horse and make myself feel confident that I could do those lifts again. And I did that. Done some snatches here, and then I did some clean complex on that day. So just doing different parts of the clean to try and strengthen the portions that I'm not so good at, which tends to be, for me, the catch. It's all about the mobility of the legs and the hips, and dropping into that deep position. So, if you get injured, don't see it as a death sentence for training. It can be really easy to just not want to train anymore. I think it's really important that you find the things you can train and sort of keep momentum, because otherwise, I've been sitting on my ass for 4 weeks, and my injury might even took longer to heal because I wasn't getting the blood flow that training provides. So this is me getting back to squats. I mean, the low back injury, it impacted everything. It meant I couldn't really squat great, I couldn't deadlift great, couldn't do any more power training. So I just done rehab, mobility exercises, and then some lifting. And this is, I think, as I say, week 3 when I got back to doing some lifting, but numbers are a little bit down, and also for some reason the world became slanted as well. Just a really bad camera angle. So I think I did some high bar squats on this day, and then some front squats. The high bar was probably like 120, 130, and the front squats, I think, maybe 90 kilos. Which usually my working sets for both those exercises, high bar, I'd be up over the 130, and front squats, I'd be up over 100 kilos. So a little bit of a dip down. But as of today, which by the end of this week will be 5 weeks post-injury, I think that my lower body strength will be 90% restored to where it was before I pulled my back and injured it. Say pulled my back, aggravated my SI joint. So, yeah, these look pretty easy. But you can see, even in this video, like I can see it just a little bit stiffer, like in the lower body. Everything, like getting depth, but and I also tend to move everything. It might not look it, but a little bit more trepidation. Just concerned that I was going to injure it again. But whilst my lower body had to take the pause because of the injury, I did push on with upper body. So that was the one thing that I still tried to do. Bench press was sore because I couldn't get into the arch position for benching, so I just done some flat back bench press, incline press. I couldn't actually lie in a flat bench with the lower back injury as well, so I just did incline bench with a flat back, and this is me getting back to benching with an arch. First week of doing it with the arch, there's a little bit of discomfort, but when it comes to an injury, you know, go to a physio. But here's my opinion: if you injure something, when you get into certain positions, coming back from the injury and do the rehab, it's going to be a little bit stiff, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. There's arguments to be made that you could continue the rehab until that disappears, which is probably a smart idea. My argument against that is that I want to get back to training properly as quickly as possible. So for me, it's just about making sure that I'm not making the injured area worse by doing the exercises. So when it comes to bench press, yes, there's discomfort in my lower back when I arched at that time. It's now gone. But the discomfort wasn't making it worse because you're not really loading, or I certainly don't load my lower back that much on a bench press. Most of the loads on the hands, on the shoulders, on the chest. There is a little bit through the spine, but it's nowhere near, for example, what I'm doing here on a deadlift. So, yeah, I feel like some exercises, as long as the primary mover is not lower back, you can get back to it and you can kind of work around some of that discomfort. But, yeah, you don't want to make it any worse. So, here is me back to, this is the first time back properly doing deadlifts. I think on the bar, that looks like 140, and I'm doing stiff-legged deadlifts. Now, when I talk about discomfort on the bench press, there was certainly a little bit of discomfort going back to deadlifts. The weight is a lot less than I would usually use on some working sets. A lot less, maybe that's a stretch, but you know, working sets usually up over 160, 170, and here we're using 140. I decided to go for the most low back intensive type of deadlift. Partially because I'm special kind of crazy and I wanted to just kind of test my back out and see how it got on with getting back to deadlifting, but also because it means that I use the least amount of load. So on a stiff leg deadlift, I use the least amount of load, and also there's the ability to rest the bar at the bottom. So it's the least amount of load, you rest it in the bottom, which is the bit that tends to be put the load, most of the load on the lower spine. Unlike a remaining deadlift where a lot of that load is in on the lower spine. Here must be more curls. Yeah, this is 55 for 15 cheaty curls. I should have just called it cheat curls, but I felt like there was some at the start that are decent curls, and then they start getting sloppy. So that's why I said cheaty, because they're not all just cheat curls where you're just swinging every single one. It started off kind of relatively strict, and then they just get progressively worse over time. I would like to get this up to doing the 60 kilos for 15 to 20 reps. Yeah, whether or not that'll happen this year, I don't know. Baby's en route in July, so I think the run of PBs, personal best, is definitely about to run dry in the coming months. As stress levels in this house go up, and then the baby boy comes, stress levels are going to be higher, and I'm going to have a lot less time. So I don't think I'm going to be smashing PBs. I'm just going to take what I can get. So on this must be coming into week 4 post-injury. I think we're about to see me revisiting the snatch. Yeah, it's a real shame because the week that I got injured was the week after that was the week that I was going to do all the recording of the power training that I had been doing, because I thought I'm not going to, show people, post on YouTube basically all the power training. I just thought I'll just post the final week, the best numbers. I was on sort of track to get some Olympic lifting, small Olympic lifting PBs, nothing crazy, but maybe get like a 120 clean and jerk. I think I've done 115, and maybe get like an 80 power snatch. But wasn't to be, got the injury, and then, just didn't do that recording of the power train. So this, I suppose the recording that we're doing now is sort of the power training plus I don't show any rehab. Sort of in the background there's a rehab, but this is just the sessions where I'm actually steadily building my strength back up, and getting confident that I can go back to Olympic lifting without injuring stuff. So here we go for 50 kilos on, not quite, it's like a power snatch, but a high power snatch. I'm not really dipping at all with the hips. I'm just driving it and catching it right at the top. Which is because I think the reason that I injured my SI is I don't have the mobility to catch a snatch in the bottom position. I just don't have it in my hips. It's not there. Potentially I could work at it, but the amount of work I'd need to put in it is not something that I could do in a power block in 8 weeks. So I think in future I am just going to stick to doing snatches like so and just catching them right at the top. Here we're having a little bit of shrugs, progressively moving that bar up. And I think I'm going to get the 60. I think I've managed back up to 70 now since the injury. No PB, but maybe next year, because we're moving on now. Oh, there we go. No, it's not going for it. Maybe. Am I going for this or not? Let's see. I think this was a feel good one when I finally got back doing the 60 kilos that injured me. And I think it is here that I do it. I would be like, come on, but I either got it or I didn't. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yep. Back up. Cool. So managed to get to do the 60 kilos, which was the movement that injured me, back onto it. Relatively pain-free. I'm not going to lie, I don't think I was completely pain-free at this point. This is week 4. Say week 5 now. It was last Friday, just there. Today is Monday. So the Friday before today, I've been back in and there's been no pain at all. It's completely gone, which is awesome. Because I've had injuries before where they niggle and they sort of drag on for ages. This back one seems to have cleared up. And the thing that I'm going to do to prevent it in the future is not try and do deep snatches when I haven't done the prerequisite mobility work. I'm going to keep single leg training in. I decided over the past few years I've sort of dumped that out. 1, it's boring. 2, it's really painful. 3, it sort of takes away from the big lifts because the energy requirements of doing single leg squats once you get to a certain level of strength, it's just horrible. But the downside is when you take it out, you're more likely to get injuries because you don't have left and right balance in the lower body. And I always do some sort of unilateral training for my upper body, so I should always do it for my legs. But yeah, it just slipped out of my training, and I'm putting it back in because I think that part of the reason I got injured is because, yeah, I've been neglecting that. So I don't have that resilience in the tank on both sides because the injury was mainly on the right side of my body, and right side of my SI. So, and it could also be because I was doing all the power work, all the bit of distance running once a week. Not huge, but I do the distance running on a Thursday and then lifting on a Friday. It's a lot of impact, coupled with the fact that I'm doing split jerks. So there's more sort of impact put on the right side in a split jerk because that's the foot that I shoot forward, shoot back. Yeah, so numerous little, kind of the accumulation of lots of different things that I think that hopefully I can learn from and not get injured again. And I think that's the key when it comes to injuries. It's learning what got me injured and then repair from the injury, and then how can I prevent this injury in future. So yeah, hopefully I'm there. I've repaired, and I think the lessons are keep the single leg work in. Don't try and do too much impact. I have to realise that I am now coming on to 34, coming in my mid-30s. I just can't get away with absolutely caning my knees, hips, low back, any joints really, the way that I used to. Probably sort of 5-10 years ago, I could get away with stacking training sessions that were sort of putting impact on joints back to back, and my body was resilient enough to take it, or young enough that it could recover from those sessions on the joints. But now I think maybe it's it's going to start slowing down, and I just can't get away with doing it. I have to be a little bit smarter. So this here looks like 90 kilos on the complex. Yeah, I've added them in as well. So breathe. A couple of other things I've added in is training without a belt. So the past year, I've always trained beltless, and then when it comes to like peaking, I'll stick my belt on, and I feel like it psychologically gives me a lot of benefit, physically gives me a lot of benefit. But lately I've just been keeping the belt on when I'm doing heavy sets, and I also think that might have reduced the resilience of my lower back because I've been using that as a sort of crutch, as a brace if you like. So I'm coming back to beltless training when I'm training, as well, to try and improve the resilience at the lower back. So we'll see how it goes, but I suppose I'm looking at the things that have changed recently that might have led to the injury. And the only things I can think of is drop single leg work, used a belt more, and done a lot of high impact stuff. So could just be one of those things, but I think if I try and improve all of them, reduce the likelihood of getting injured. So that was 90 kegs on the clean and jerk. And I think that might be, no, we've got some squats. It's not the last clean and jerk video. I think I've got one more, which is from the Friday there, I think. But here we are on the squat. And this is up to 140 by the looks of things. Two blues, that's 20, and then that yellow is a 15 and a 5. I think it's 140. High bar. Which is good to get up to the 140 because everyone's probably got weights in their head for certain movements where they like to be. For me, for high bar squats, it's up over 140 is where I feel good on my working sets. I feel strong if I'm using those sets. When I'm using less than that, I just feel slightly less strong compared to my usual self. 90 kilos on the front squats, and I think we're going to do some little pauses on them. Pause work is also like, so if you have like a knee injury or a back injury, a little tip is to slow down the eccentric of the movement, use less weight, and pause in the bottom. And the reason for that is that you're kind of keeping the weight on the muscle. You're always going to get some dispersion stress, right, that goes through the knee joints, so the ligaments of the knee, the soft tissue of the knee. You're going to disperse. Some of the weight is going to disperse through into the tendons, through into the structures of the knee. And if you have a knee injury, you should avoid that. But when it comes to coming back from an injury and you want to get back to training, don't rush to go back to like your sort of usual speed on things like squats or deadlifts. You can slow down, use less load, and take more time on the eccentrics and even add pauses. The reason for this is it's going to give the muscles a workout, it's going to load those muscles up, but the other side of it is it's going to reduce the pressure on the joints, okay, and on the ligaments and the tendons and the soft tissues, and more load's going to be placed on the muscles, right? Think about when you do a squat, if you bounce at the bottom, that bouncing motion at the bottom can put a little bit of pressure on the ligaments of the knee, whereas if you pause, you can reduce the pressure on the ligaments of the knee, but you actually, the muscles have to work harder. That's why when you do a pause squat, it's much more difficult than a normal squat. Why when you do a pause bench, it's much more difficult than a normal bench as well. So that's a little snippet. After doing the Olympic lifting, I think, I failed to get up to the 70 kilos, which I wanted to do on the last week. Before now, I'm going on to a conditioning block. I didn't manage to get it. I just wasn't ready. I'd moved from doing like Olympic lifting 3 days a week just before the injury, and then I went down to just doing it once per week on the Friday. So I just hadn't done the work, and there was no way I was going to hit a personal best. So after doing some Olympic lifting, I bailed on it and decided to do some jump training instead and just see how high I could jump, which I think my vertical is probably somewhere between 18 and 20 inches, which is not crazy, but this is after doing Olympic lifting, so maybe I can add a couple inches on there, maybe not fresh at the end of the week, maybe it's like 22, 25, I don't know, somewhere around there, I'd like to hope. But yeah, so I did some jump training, and just for fun, just to see, just to sort of, I knew I wasn't going to happy being the Olympic lifting, so I thought, let's just go and do some jumps. Which I was doing some of this during the power training, I was doing some jump training during it, but I obviously binned it off when I was in the rehab. But now that my back is no longer sore, it's good to get some jumps in. Now, I suppose the question that might come here is like, why the hell bother doing jump training if most of the time I just want to build muscle and get stronger? It's just for variation. It just makes training more fun, and I like to try and be relatively athletic. So, finishing off here with a big bench PB. This is 110, and I believe I get 14 reps, which puts my 1 rep max at 160 using the calculator, but you can't trust him. So, hopefully when I peak towards the end of the year, I'm going to get a lovely bench PB, because I can't just say it, my 1 rep max, the most I've ever done is 140, but I haven't tried a 1 rep max since switching to this wider grip, this wide, as wide as you can, legal powerlifting grip. So, I'm excited for that. The next block of training I'll be shooting is my conditioning and cardio. So, if you like this video, remember to subscribe and like the video. Catch you there. Ciao.